Hello, backdroppers. It's January 17th, 2019. It is the first development meeting after the release of 1.12. So, oh my gosh, it's been an action-packed week in the world of Backdrop. Well, let's go through all of the individual items and we'll get through to all the news once we get down to the product section. So, updates from the PMC, there are nothing to report this week. Community updates, no real updates here either as far as new contrib authors joining the Backdrop contrib group. It is worth noting that we did have lots of releases of contrib projects. Options element to prevent conflicts with the new version of Backdrop, Entity Plus, the Hacks editor, web components, new version of Drush that includes boilerplate commands, web form module, paging module. Lots of new releases just made in the last 7 days. So it continues to be really exciting just to see the really thriving ecosystem of contrib modules. Not just being created, new ones coming in, but the continuing maintenance is, I don't know, maintenance is exciting. That means stability and new functionality. It's really great. So big thanks out there to all of our contrib authors that are doing so much work keeping the Backdrop contrib world awesome and healthy. Let's see, we've got a couple of website related tasks related to backdropcms.org. A lot of these things we covered during the design meeting that was just prior to this one, including improving the search system for modules, themes, and layouts. That's backdropcms.org issue 442 that we covered in the design meeting. We're working towards improving the demo functionality from the homepage instead of using requiring a sign up to Pantheon, actually having a true demo that it's not self-hosted, it's still using a service, but one that doesn't require sign up and is truly just a temporary sandbox. That's issue 422 and also 476 regarding some problems that we have with Pantheon right now. So you can see the design meeting for details on that. Let's see. I don't think we have any updates on the forum site to report today, nor on the translation site that I know of. I'm just not connected in with that. And we don't have Olaf here to report. So let's see. All sites on backdropcms.org, it's been proposed that perhaps we set aside some time to put some focus on our internal websites and have a volunteer-driven virtual sprint, possibly February 1st through 10th. St. Paul Tim suggested that. It's probably, it's a really great idea. Like if we can get people together and unblock them on maybe, getting access to the database dump or telling information, conveying information about how to set up various systems so that we can have them on local hosts, and then work through some of the issues that we've got with the flagship website as well as the forum. So that probably is going to be coming up February 1st through 10th. Right now, he just kind of has thrown it out there. The issue to discuss having that virtual sprint is under the backdropcms.org issue tracker number 494. All right, let's go ahead and roll right into product updates. As you guys probably noticed, Jen isn't around, so I'm just running it all. Okay, let's see. So Backdrop, man, lots of things happened. So we had 4 releases in the past 2 days. So let's work kind of backwards here. So 1.11.4 was released at the same time as 1.12, and there were a ton of bug fixes put into 1.11.4, which was supposed to be the last release under the 1.11 release. But as many people are aware, yesterday a security release was put out for Drupal, and per our security policies, we coordinated and released a new versions of Backdrop at the same time. So Drupal 7.63 fixed 2 security vulnerabilities, one regarding the tar library the gzip library that is in core, and then also a problem with the phar, PHAR, PHP archive functionality, that there's an exploit that has affected pretty much every CMS, actually, WordPress, Typo3, Drupal, and Backdrop, and pretty much any other PHP application in which you can upload a file. So that has been addressed with Backdrop. We made 1.11.5, so security release for the 1.11 branch, as well as 1.12.1. So right after 1.12 came out, the next day we had a security release created as well, which isn't really ideal to be putting people through those cycles, but we also can't really dictate the releases of Drupal. So it is still important for us to come out as quickly as possible, even if it's not perfect timing for our project. So let's talk about 1.12.0, which just came out January 15th, so day before yesterday. Lots of great new features, including Backdrop Core can now self-update. That functionality actually was in 1.11, but now it's in the user interface in 1.12. It's still off by default, but you can turn it on, and it only self-updates manually. So you have to go there and click update. So it's just like updating a module or a theme or any other project where you go to available updates, it says there's a new version of Core available, and then you apply the updates, and it self-updates the Core directory. The thing it does not do is it does not do that automatically, like on cron jobs or on an interval or anything like that. That is still an objective for the next version of Backdrop, but again, like we'll kind of slowly iterate on that functionality to make sure that we get it perfect before it actually goes out publicly, out of the box, that is. So let's see, views, grids. When you create a new display that uses the grid display mode, that now uses CSS grids instead of a table-based layout. The table-based layout is still there, and old sites that use the table layouts will continue to do so, but new views that are set up will use CSS grids by default, with the option to flip back to the old way as well. Better use of iconography throughout Core, primarily probably the admin menu at the top of the page now has icons all across the top. Taxonomy terms now have languages associated with them. So when you create, in particular, tags, as you're creating like a French piece of content, the tags that you create are also associated with the French language. So that helps separate out different terms into different languages. Tags for modules now have additional information in their .info files that allow them to be categorized via tags in addition to the packages that already existed. And right now this has pretty minor impact on the modules page, that you can now include searching the tags as well as the description and the title. But it will probably start impacting the way that we find modules on backdropcms.org and in the installer. We'll start using that metadata from the individual modules and start pulling it into the project information that is hosted on backdropcms.org and is then used for our searching system. Let's see. Options element module, or a simpler way to provide options for select radios and checkboxes. Options element was merged into Core in 1.12, which is very exciting. There is one caveat there in that the 1.12 version of the module that is included has some namespace conflicts with the contrib project. A new version of the Contrib project has been put out that also adds a warning saying that it's not compatible with 1.12 and higher, which is great. Kind of preventative measure, but for people that are upgrading right away, it is critical that options element be turned off first before updating to 1.12. Something that's not very ideal. We didn't realize that until after we released. So we're seeing if there's a way to prevent that problem in future versions, just entirely to avoid that entire problem. There's also a new contact form block, so you can now place the contact form as a block anywhere on the site. And we have new APIs for translating strings that are stored in configuration files. That's very exciting. It doesn't actually have an end user impact quite yet for sites that are translated, but it opens up the possibility of making it so that profiles and modules, when they combine configuration with code, all of the strings can be translated on the localization server altogether, rather than it just being the strings that are in the code. Also, those are the big items, which is a pretty great list of big items. So there's also lots of small functionality. And just to bring it up, some items from last week that we mentioned, CSS characters in views were being stripped out. In particular, hyphens or underscores are being converted to hyphens. That issue 3428 was merged before release, making it so that the search block has options. This is useful for doing things like hiding the label of the search form and instead using a placeholder, for example. It's a common pattern in search areas inside of headers and in sidebars. That functionality is now possible without doing any kind of custom coding, just by configuring your search block. That issue is 2923, and it was also merged before the 1.12 release. And lastly, adding icons to the admin bar. I guess I covered this earlier a little bit about the iconography throughout core. That issue 1841 also completed just before the 1.12 release. So yeah, lots of changes, big and small, that got into 1.12. If you look at the actual release notes for 1.12, there's also dozens of minor bug fixes and changes that were also released. Let's see. Again, like 1.12.1, the security release came out the following day, so yesterday. So the current version of Backdrop is 1.12.1. The next version for bug fixes will be 1.12.2. And 1.12.2, we've got a couple of pretty serious issues that need to be addressed. Let's see, there are certain situations in which core updates will fail due to a conflict between .info files in tests and .info files in modules. That issue 1294 is one that we have a set of criteria to reproduce the problem, but we haven't yet created a pull request to fix it yet. Considering core updates are one of our key features in 1.12, that's something that we would like to get fixed as soon as possible. It doesn't happen to everybody in all situations, but it can happen that core just won't be able to download or won't be able to validate the downloaded file. It doesn't leave your site in an unusable state. It just doesn't succeed doing the update. So 1294 is an area in which we could use a little bit of work. Also, this just came up this morning that there apparently was a change to GitHub or the underlying system that GitHub uses over at AWS, that we use GitHub to host all of our archives for releases. And some kind of change occurred earlier today that made it so that we can no longer have Backdrop pull down release archives from GitHub. So that affects the project installer and the project updater. So nothing is updating or installable right now through the user interface because of this problem. Even though it was caused by a change on the AWS side, so it seems. There is something that we can do to fix it within the Backdrop code base that will at least fix it for new releases of Backdrop, but current ones that are out there, unless this change gets put back on the AWS side, it's possible that current or all previous versions of Backdrop won't be able to use the installer or the updater until they manually update to the next version of Backdrop. So that has some repercussions, of course. So 3488 is where the discussion is happening there. There is a pull request there that needs review that would solve it from the Backdrop side. It is partly Backdrop's fault that we're not doing everything perfectly, and it's a stricter validation on the AWS side. So 3488 definitely could use some review. Let's see, other items that we would like to get into 112.2 as soon as possible. This one carried over from 111. Adding predefined color schemes to basis is issue 3209. That one continues to need review. And then there's a bunch of RTL issues that were opened in the past couple of weeks that we're working through as quickly as possible. 4 of those were merged into the latest release. There's still 3 more that were created that there are solutions for that need pull requests created for them. Just search for RTL in the Backdrop issue queue to find those issues. Wow, so much stuff going on. 1.13. 1.13 will be the next release of Backdrop. I know a lot of us are just kind of taking a little chill time after 1.12, which is very good and healthy thing to do. But we are keeping our eyes forward on 1.13, which will be released May 15th, 2019. And we have some items that largely were bumps from 1.12 that we would like to take a look at, making sure that we can move forward on them in 1.13. So there's the dashboard. Dashboard is a new module that uses layouts and a new collection of blocks to provide a landing page for administrators. We covered that in the design meeting just before this one. The issue is 495. So if you'd like to take a look at the design meeting, you can see the current state of dashboard. Fieldable file types, making it so that files can have bundles and fields attached to them, is issue 2632. This continues to basically be a complete piece of functionality, but everybody agreed that it was too risky to throw it into 1.12 without further testing or figuring out what it was that we actually wanted. So 2632, the pull request is fully functioning, but we're trying to find ways to pare it down to a smaller set of features and then do the things one at a time. A follow-up to having it so that config files can contain translatable strings is we need to go through and start enumerating all of the translatable strings in core. Right now we only have the API, but not actually all of the config files updated. And so we have an issue to start populating all of the translatable strings instead of config files in issue 3455. That issue just getting started. And also, just to help with the security of downloading packages, we've got issue 1992, which would add package signing to our update and install mechanisms. That one's still in progress. No updates in the past couple of months, actually. Let's see. I think our roadmap for 1.13 was also updated. Let me see if I missed anything in here. Dashboard, save draft in core. Let's see, we mentioned that during the design meeting as well, and more TBD. Okay, so I think that those are the key items that we've got focused on for 1.13. We're still open to other new options, and always, like, if something comes along that is really compelling that we have the potential to include in the next release, we'll of course take a look at that. So that does it for the product update. Let's see, I don't think we have any other things. See, Joseph and I connected before the meeting, and I don't think there's anything else to add in Q&A. Correct me if I'm wrong, though.
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't know if we want to remove the tar.gz functionality or not.
Oh, interesting. So I don't think we can. So the security release that came out was specifically fixing tar.gz files, which right now we only use for config file imports and exports. I don't think we can remove the libraries from core. I mean, even though they're updated and they're now secured, I don't think we can remove them even if we're not using them in core from an API change perspective. We can stop using them for config files, though. We could switch over to using zip files for download and upload. And I think that would probably be preferable. tar.gz files are not the easiest things to work with for a lot of users.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. If you want, we can file an issue for that. I don't think it's been brought up before.
Okay. I can go do that right after the meeting.
Awesome. Okay, well, that's it then. It was a super action-packed week. 4 releases of Backdrop, lots of things happening, pull requests getting merged in just beforehand, and then some follow-up ones coming in 1.12.1 as well. Just lots of great improvements all across. So it's been exciting. So I'm ready to take a little break. But there's always more to be done in the world of development. So thank you, everybody that contributed to 1.12 and continue to work on all of the great new functionality that hasn't gotten into Backdrop yet, but we hope to see in a future version. So thanks again. Thank you to all of our community members that have come together to make such awesome releases month after month. So, all right, that does it for today's meeting. Thank you again, everybody out there, for watching, and just keep on backdropping. See you guys on the internet.